Yo, yo, yo! What is going on, guys? My name is Kyle, and welcome back to another Dead by Daylight video. In today's video, we're going to be ranking every killer from worst to best. This is officially my first commentary video that I am recording in the dorms, so hopefully I don't get any sound complaints. But with that being said, if you guys do enjoy the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe down below, and come join my Discord. The link is in the description. This is a completely subjective list because all killers have completely different playstyles and different strengths and weaknesses, so try not to be too offended if you have some of your killers lower on the list than other killers. If you agree or disagree with my list, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, guys, let's get right into the list. Coming into the last place spot is Legion. A ton of people are going to hate me for putting him this low, but I put Legion this low on the list purely because he doesn't really have any way to end chases with his power. He basically just makes everyone injured and then they stay injured the entire game, assuming that they're a good team. And technically, the most efficient thing to do as a survivor is to just not heal at all and do gens. So in a sense, the Legion's power forcefully makes the survivors do their objective more. Legion can be played very well. I have played against some really good Legions in my past. However, you need to be very strong in chase to make him even effective at all. Next on the list is Trapper. Trapper can be very good, but he's just extremely outdated. He just needs a very small buff to make him a little bit viable. As of now, the reason he's so bad is because you literally have to go around the map to even get your power. And his power isn't even that good to begin with. You can definitely like lock out loops and completely mitigate really strong loops like Shack and stuff, but the time it takes to go find a trap, go back to that loop and set it up is so long, on top of being extremely counterable because survivors can literally just see you and go disarm your trap anyway, or they can just dead hard right through it. So he just has way too many weaknesses, and I don't think his strengths are good enough. Unless you play Basement Trapper, but that's just extremely boring. Next up is going to the Pig. I feel like the Pig is one of the most controversial placements that are going to be on this list. A ton of people think that she is extremely good because her slowdown is really good. And yes, I can agree with this. She does have insanely good slowdown, and if you pair that with like a hex build or something, then she has a ton of different, secondary objectives that the survivors have to complete. However, she can also have no slowdown whatsoever, and it's completely up to the game to decide whether or not they want to, help you out or not. That's probably one of the worst design decisions, is to have a killer that's completely based on RNG. With no add-ons, you basically just have a 25% chance of getting your head trap off. So let's say you're on a huge map like Mother's Dwelling. You can either get it off the first try, which will take like maybe 20 seconds max, and then the Pig has basically no slowdown, or you can get it off on the last box, which basically means you just ran around the entire map and then you were doing nothing for like 90 seconds to 2 minutes. That is extremely good. Pig would definitely be higher if she had the situations where it was like the third or fourth box every single time. However, because of the pure fact that her power is able to be mitigated in like less than 10 seconds is a bit of an issue. Her dash ability is actually really underrated and can be good in a lot of situations. However, if the survivors are really perceptive, they can just leave the loop when you crouch, or if they can read that you're just going to fake it, they'll just stay at the loop and then you'll have to M1 them normally. The 22nd spot is going to the Clown. So the Clown has the semi-recent change where he has the yellow bottles that speed you up by 10%, which if you think about it, 10% is basically nothing. It'll save you like maybe half a second. However, I don't think that Clown is the worst killer in the game. And reason being is because he is an anti-loop killer. He's a very boring killer to face because he literally just does the same thing at every single loop where he throws his purple stuff on one side and then pushes you into it from the other side. However, this is the reason I don't think he's the worst killer in the game, because you literally can't loop him if he knows how to use his power effectively. So just the fact that he is able to stop loops makes him better than the other killers. However, there's not much else going for him, so that's why he's so low on this list. The 21st spot is going to Michael Myers, or The Shape. I wish that he was better because he's such an iconic character, but he's just very outdated because he was actually one of the first killers that came to this game. I just think he needs a little bit of a better build-up. He's a decent killer, but he relies on looping, so if the survivors are good, he's gonna have a really hard time. Once he's in tier 3, it does make looping a lot easier because you can swing from further away and you can also vault much quicker, so you can do a lot of mind games with that. However, I still feel like he's really add-on reliant and is not able to get out of tier 1 fast enough. And it's especially hard on maps that are like indoor or whatever. Coming into the 20th spot is the new killer Cenobite, or Cenobite, or Pinhead, whatever you want to call him. I'm putting him here based on the PTB. He was actually released today, so I have not been able to try him out since his buffs. So this will probably change in the future and time will tell where he'll be put on the list. But as of the PTB, he was really bad. The only good thing was when the timer ran out for the survivors and then the chains would just attack them randomly. That's like his only good power. His regular M2 power, where he can like put out a chain and then shoot someone and then have them like hold them in place or slow them down for a little bit, was actually so bad in the PTB that you literally lose time doing that versus if you were to just like, W key to them and hit them regularly. And this was tested, so it was confirmed. It also didn't help how easily the chains broke. But supposedly they added a ton ton of buffs to him, so he might be a little more of a decent killer, and he's honestly one of the coolest design killers in my opinion, so we'll see what happens in the future. Next up on the list, we have the Trickster. So the Trickster is in a really weird spot right now where he's a bad killer, but he's extremely overpowered in chase. He has this very oppressive ability with basically no counterplay, and it allows him to get downs in chase very easily depending on the map, and he actually has some snowball potential now. But he follows the design philosophy of being really overpowered in chase, but then really bad outside of chase, which has been a recent thing that they've been doing, and it's horrible. It makes the game way worse, to be honest, because the fun of the game is the chase, and if there's no chase, then it's not fun because you're just holding W the entire time, which is the counterplay to this killer. However, he still is pretty bad because he doesn't have any map pressure, he doesn't have any slowdown. The only thing going for him is actually his chase potential, so that's why he's this low on the list. Next on the list is going to Hillbilly. So if I was playing Billy, he'd definitely be way lower on the list because I am absolutely garbage with this killer after his update. His rework completely ruined him for me, and I don't know why. Like, I literally used to main Billy, and now he's just so bad. His power is really good because he has mobility, and he can, you know, get from point A to point B really easily, and he also has an insta-down ability, so he sounds really good on paper, right? But now with all the map reworks and all of the new indoor maps that they've been adding recently, his power is basically completely useless on like half of the maps. In a lot of the reworked maps, they just added a ton of debris everywhere, so he's really hard to traverse the map with. And then of course, indoor maps, you can basically never use your power ever. And all of his add-ons are absolutely garbage, which doesn't help. So you just have to have like 3000 IQ to play this killer effectively, and he's also very map dependent as well. And if you don't have Bamboozle, you're pretty much screwed. Next up is going to the Doctor. I've had mixed feelings with the Doctor throughout my playtime in this game. No one really plays the Doctor, so it's kind of hard to gauge a correct like skill level for him. He's very good at shutting down loops, right? But the only problem is that it takes so long for him to shut down loops. I think the best part about him is he has a little bit of slowdown with the tier 3 snapping out of it thing, and he also has really good information and can basically know where everyone is at any given time. However, I don't think his anti-loop is good enough to make him a really good killer. I'm going to try to speed it up a little bit because I don't want this video to be 30 minutes long. The next spot is going to Ghostface. Ghostface is probably the most average killer that you can have. He has some really good things going for him and some really bad things going for him as well. He's the only stealth killer that can M1 out of his stealth, besides like Myers tier 1, but you're not going to be in tier 1 anyway, which makes Ghostface very fun to play because you can confuse survivors and even cause some jump scares sometimes. And his stalking ability is also extremely fun because you can get some insta-downs on people and completely change the tide of the match. But the reason he's so weak is just because he's an M1 killer, and as survivors get better at looping, it's harder to get kills with Ghostface because it sometimes takes so long to catch up to them. But if you use your cloaking ability properly, it is really easy to pick off really unsuspecting survivors. The 15th spot is going to Deathslinger. Deathslinger is by far the most boring killer to play against as survivor. However, he's one of the most fun killers to play, in my opinion. Just because you can go for some really cool shots and you get so many moments of satisfaction every time you hit a shot. However, he has that same design philosophy as I mentioned earlier, where he's really oppressive in chase, but then really bad outside of chase, because if you think about it, it takes so long for him to actually get a down and like hook someone, because A, you're a 4-4 killer, so you're slower than most killers. You have to find someone, you have to hit them, and then you have to catch up to them, and then you have to shoot, and then you have to reel them in, and then you have to reload, and then you have to pick them up, and then you have to take them to a hook. And by that time, there's like 4 gens done, you know? So he's a really good killer in chase, but he just has really bad map pressure because of his bad time management. Next up on the list, we have the Nightmare or Freddy Krueger. So he was actually nerfed maybe like a couple months ago, and I haven't really played him since because he's just an overall boring character. So I don't know about this placement because I don't really play him and no one else really plays him as well. He used to be one of the best killers in the game because he had both map pressure and anti-loop in his kit, and he synergized with a ton of perks like Ruin Surveillance, for example. But now I feel like he's just a very average killer because they nerfed his anti-loop, but he still can be used very effectively and can teleport around the map a lot, which is really nice. Next up on the list, we have Nemesis. Nemesis was actually buffed today, so I don't know if he's going to be like really good now. It seemed like a very minor buff, but it could completely change how he plays. They basically made him faster when he's pulling up his tentacle in tier 3, so hopefully he doesn't become really boring to play because he has like no counterplay or whatever. However, as of now, he is another one of those killers who's really good in chase, but really bad outside of chase. He's good in chase because you can easily put survivors into those hit or hit scenarios where you pull up their tentacle, and if they take the window, you hit them, and if they don't take the window, you just punch them. However, if you are trying to use your tentacle, they have to be sick already, so technically it's a 3-hit down. So he's basically just a worse version of Pyramid Head. However, he has the plus of having zombies, and the zombies can be really good or really bad, and it's another RNG based design that I do not like at all. Like, his zombies can do absolutely nothing the entire game, or alternatively, they can be the reason that you're getting any kills whatsoever. The 12th spot is going to the Plague. The Plague is another one of those killers that I just find to be very average, where she can be extremely good or extremely bad depending on the player and depending on the perks being used. In my opinion, opinion, Plague is just a better version of Legion because she keeps everyone injured all game, except if the survivors quote unquote heal, she actually gets an advantage, whereas Legion just has to injure them again. Plague does exactly the same thing that Legion does, just better. Like, they have to cleanse, they can't heal on their own because they're broken, and if they do cleanse, she gets a really powerful ability because of it. Plague does feel very clunky to play though, in my opinion, because sometimes your puke just won't hit them at all, and sometimes you'll like charge your meter like maybe 20% and then it just won't do anything and it'll just slow you down a ton, so it just feels really gross to play. The 11th spot is going to the Wraith. So Wraith actually was one of the worst killers at one point, but he's been slowly getting buffed over time, and now he's actually pretty decent and pretty fun to play. He's way faster in his cloak now, so he does have a lot more map pressure and traversability, if that's even a word. I don't even know if that's a word. And he has a very long lunge out of his cloak, which is kind of extremely good and makes for some really easy hits. He's another average killer that can be easily bullied, but if you know how to use him effectively and do like the hit and run kind of style of play, then you can do some insane work with this killer. The 10th spot is going to Demogorgon. You're not going to be able to buy him soon, so if you don't have him already, I'd recommend buying him now while you still can. Demogorgon is actually one of the most fun killers to play in my opinion. His power is just really simple. You have teleportation holes and then you have a shred. I think Demogorgon is probably the most balanced killer in the entire game. He has counterplay on both sides, which is such a good design. The survivors have things that they can do to avoid his shred, and the Demogorgon has things he can do to avoid survivors looping him because he has the shred ability. So it just makes for some fun interactivity with the survivors where you're able to play with him and you can either get destroyed or you could do really well based on if you're able to read the survivors properly. His shred ability can lock down loops really easily, which is why he's so high on this list. The next spot is going to the Executioner or Pyramid Head. In my opinion, Pyramid Head is one of the hardest killers to use properly because you have to constantly be putting down his gulag juice to be able to get like part of his power. He is very good in loops because he's able to do his M2, which can go through walls and can hit unsuspecting people. I personally am very bad with him, but I know a lot of people who are really good with him, and if you use like I'm All Ears or like other aura reading perks, he can be extremely good because he can hit them through walls. And he's not necessarily as uncounterable as he was when he first came out, which is kind of nice. The 8th spot is going to the Huntress. Huntress is such a fun killer that I've been enjoying a lot lately. She's also very good because she can snowball really easily and she can get a hit from literally such far distances. It's insane. Obviously, it's really hard to do that, but it is so satisfying to do that. I think she's another one of those really balanced killers because she has plenty of time to counter her, but at the same time, she has plenty of options to counter the survivors. I would say that she is for sure the best ranged killer in the game. The next spot is going to the Cannibal. I feel like Bubba's kind of underrated for what he can do. He can do so much with his chainsaw that absolutely obliterates survivors. Some of them, like camping and tunneling, is a little unfair though, which kind of sucks. But if you are not doing that, you're able to shut down loops so quickly if you use all 3 of your tokens. And you can absolutely shred through pallets. Like literally shred through pallets. However, if you get a map like the game, you're literally just going to be breaking pallets every 3 seconds and then never be able to down anybody. But he's basically just a better hillbilly because he can do a ton of work on practically any map. And he can also catch up to a survivor with his chainsaw if they have borrowed time or if they use sprint burst or anything like that, which is kind of insane, I'm not gonna lie. Coming into the next spot, I hate to say it, but it's the Twins. I don't know how factual this placement is because I literally refuse to buy the Twins and no one else plays the Twins because they're so boring. From what I can tell by the 2 games I've played against the Twins, they have a really good power, and that is the baby, obviously, because that's her only power. But the baby is so oppressive in chase that you basically have no counterplay whatsoever. The Twins have such a cool concept, but in practice, it's probably the most poorly designed killer in the game. It's not poorly designed, it just appeals to a playstyle which is really boring overall and unhealthy for the game because it promotes camping, slugging, and tunneling, which most people agree are some of the most boring tactics that you can use as killer. And there's not really any chase involved whatsoever. So they seem really strong, which is why I put them in the number 6 spot. The 5th spot is going to Oni. I swear to God, I barely see anyone play Oni, but he is such a good killer and he's really fun too. And not only is he a good killer, he's also very fun to play against because he has counterplay. This is a good design of a killer. His ability is really strong because it's basically hillbilly, except you can run into walls and glide across objects and stuff without any problem. And you can technically hit multiple people at once if they're close enough. And it is so easy to snowball with this killer and really easy to capitalize on survivors' mistakes, which makes him very strong overall. He also essentially forces survivors to heal, which is kind of like indirect map pressure. All right, the 4th spot is going to Hag. This is assuming you're not playing against a team with a bunch of really good flashlights. I don't see anyone play Hag because she has such a different playstyle that's pretty hard to figure out properly. I used to main Hag just because she was so fast-paced and so fun in my opinion, but the one thing I don't like about her is the fact that you can easily camp with her. However, she does have counterplay because you can crouch over the traps, unlike a camping Bubba where you literally can't do anything about it. Hag can basically guarantee guarantee hits and shut down loops really easily. But if you are going against a team of really good survivors, which is pretty rare, but if you are going against those teams, she struggles a lot because if you're playing the insta-teleport playstyle, these survivors can absolutely obliterate you because you could trigger the very edge of the trap and not get hit from an insta-teleport hack. But against 90% of the teams, you will absolutely dominate with this killer. The last three placements are pretty obvious and are fairly objective as well. Number 3 is going to the Blight. I think the reason Blight is so good is purely because of his mobility and his ability to synergize with the meta right now. Currently, the meta on basically any killer is Ruin Undying Tinker, and Blight's kit is literally designed for that meta because he can get people off of gens so fast. He's also, in my opinion, the most fun killer to play because of how fast-paced he is. And on top of that, he's very well designed because he has counterplay. Strong killers with counterplay like Blight and Oni just make me so happy. They need to do more of those. But I understand it's a very hard thing to perfect. However, if you do get an indoor map, you're pretty much screwed. The second place spot is going to Spirit. Spirit is one of the strongest killers and one of the easiest killers to play because you can literally stand still and do nothing and get a hit because of it. The reason she's so strong is because the survivors have no information of what's happening, so they're basically guessing the entire time. So she essentially doesn't have any counterplay. Every single interaction with a survivor is just a 50-50, which in my opinion is really boring, so I don't play Spirit that much. However, I think she might be the most played killer in Dead by Daylight because of how easy she is to use and because of how strong she is. Like a Spirit with 500 hours can obliterate a team of 10,000 hours just purely because of the killer alone. There are tiny little things that they can add to Spirit, which really wouldn't be that hard and would make her have a little bit of counterplay, and I don't know why they're not doing it. And then the last place spot is very obvious. It's Nurse. Nurse is obviously the best killer in the game because she literally ignores the entire point of this game, which is looping. She can go through walls. She can literally teleport through walls. However, she has the lowest kill rate because she is so hard to use. If you've ever played against a really sweaty Nurse before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is basically nothing you can do. She actually has more counterplay than Spirit in my opinion, but a really good Nurse can position herself in a way that makes it seem like you don't have any counterplay whatsoever. On top of that, she has pretty high mobility and can snowball really easily if it comes down to it. If you guys agree or disagree with my list, feel free to let me know down in the comments. And if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you're new. And I think that's all I have for you today, so I will see you all in the next one. Peace.